Hello everyone, welcome to Confidence Leads to Success with me, Elif Köse. We are going to talk about the importance of creativity in leadership and how you can navigate through change having this skill with these incredible women. I feel that I missed out not meeting her because she just lived down the road from me. Louise Taylor, she is just amazing. Reading through her bio and finding out her through my great friend Linda was a real gem for me because as a creative leadership coach and inspirational speaker, Louise Taylor is gifted at drawing out others' creativity, whether in leadership or life, through humor, deep insight, and innovative approach based on her golden wheel coaching model. I can't wait to hear about this from Louise. She has helped individuals and teams recover their inner power, transform their challenges into growth opportunities, and deliver their best performance. Louise, welcome.
Thank you, Elif. That's a very glowing introduction. And
I am so honored to have you. With your 25 years experience, I feel like we've got so much to learn from you today.
yes, I sometimes don't like to refer too much to how many years I've been doing this. Um,
I'm sorry.
but no, that's no reflection on what you've just said. It's just a sense of feeling like the wise elder in the room. That I bring a great deal of experience, obviously, because I've been doing this for so long, and I love to pass it on to help
I
others.
love I love how much you have done so far and work in the world of publishing and with charities, PR, wellbeing festivals. You have been speaker in so many different events and just I feel like we're so lucky to have you here with us today and I just love you to talk to us about the golden will before we get into the next subject.
Right. Well, thank you. I'm delighted to be here, and great to meet you and to meet a businesswoman who is thriving and flourishing in this very difficult climate. I do admire what you're doing with these podcasts and the work that you're doing with women. And helping women is in part why I created my golden wheel coaching and business model. Now, sadly, we are not visual, so we can't show all the listeners this, but they can find it on my website. And the first thing to acknowledge is that it is a circle, which is feminine.
Mhm.
Most business models are ladders or lists, but this is a circle, so it comes directly from women's energy and intuition. And it was an intuition that enabled me to create this in the first place. It's very colourful, so it makes for a very good visual aid, both when
Mhm.
I'm working with clients or when I'm giving talks. And I think what people find hardest when they're working through change is, what does it look like? Can I have a map of some description? So, what my golden wheel does is it provides you with a map. So you can look on there and say, yes, I am having problems with my confidence. That fits with the principle that's entitled focus. It is yellow. So it's a colour of sunshine and warmth and inner power. And I have other colours on there. For instance, leadership is gold, which is
Mhm.
the most powerful of colours,
It
and that
is. It is
illustrates
gold.
what you need to experience and be aware of as a leader. So it's by no means finite in terms of the information on there, but it enables you to look at your inner world, the personal development, and the external world, your business tasks and roles, from everything from selling through to marketing, and it shows you the connection between the two,
Mhm.
because most business plans, business models, just show you the business tasks, what they don't spend time on or acknowledge are the personal development issues that we all confront when we run our own
Yes.
business. And that I think is harder for women because our only role models have been thus far men. Although there are obviously a lot more female role models out there now than there
Hmm.
were 30, 40 years ago. Um, so, and the reason again why it's a wheel is because you have to steer your business. It's not a static thing.
That's
You
right.
don't just
Well,
get,
business isn't static, is it? It's never linear. It
no,
just goes up and down, round and round
and
sometimes. Yeah.
so I work with the metaphor to enable my clients to understand what they're going through and what change is about, of being at sea. This is a ship's wheel. So you're
Hmm.
steering on an ocean which is subject to the tides and to nature and to unexpected storms. There are times when you will need to drop anchor or change direction. And mostly when individual clients come to me, they're on island stuck. So what I do is we help get them and their ship ready so they can set sail and arrive at island success where they're
Yeah.
feeling confident,
There is there
everything's
is
moving
the
forward.
value of knowing where you are going in business. That level of clarity is so powerful. It really gives you that sense of confidence because you know where you are wheeling your boat, and having that person next to you is actually guiding you through the steps, who has done it or has helped enough people in the past to help you go through and see the obstacle that you may not noticed when you start. It is so important.
Thank you.
I always believe that having someone next to you to guide you through your business, it's like almost giving you a map excuse me, that was not accepted, was it?
And yes,
My
and
phone has just turned itself on. Excuse me, everyone. I'm
I've
getting
turned mine off. I've turned mine off.
I So, what
Right.
we were saying is about having clarity in your business and having this will that guides you through your business and your decisions and what's the next step is going to be is really powerful. I always believe that having clarity on what you want, where you are going, and how you're going to get there is really powerful. And this golden will sounds like what everyone needs, Louise.
Well, thank you. That's what I'm finding, obviously, with that, and it's something that's I've been using for the last well, it must be about 30 years now, and it's I also find it very effective for helping clients look at their bigger picture because that's something particularly entrepreneurs and business owners lose sight of. We get so close to what we're doing, we get involved in
Mhm.
a task here and a task there that we end up going, well, what was it I was envisioning? What
Yeah.
is my bigger picture? So it's invaluable for that because we can sit and we can look at what are key issues for you, what tasks do you find difficult, and where do you want to end up? Where are you lacking clarity? So it's very powerful, and as I said, it is wonderfully colourful, which I think is more appealing to women than men, who tend to be quite limited in their colour um, desires and
Beautiful.
needs. So,
So why do you think it is really important to recover your inner power as a woman in business?
um, right, there are many sorts of power. And I think the three key ones are you get power from as a leader in terms of your role or title. So I am managing director of. There is power that you gain from knowledge or expertise. People will
Mhm.
come to you because you have a great deal of expertise. For yourself, it's in fashion. For me, it's about change. Or people come to me because they want help with their poetry, um, both of which can be undermined or removed We can be moved away from a job. We can find that our expertise is out of date, for instance. But our inner power is something that sustains us and which we need to honour and acknowledge. And I believe that women have a greater need to acknowledge their inner power and to recover it simply because we've been living for so many centuries in a patriarchal society.
Mhm.
So our perceptions and understanding of our own power and what it can do for us and for others has been too often coloured by the patriarchal masculine way of doing things. I mean,
Yes.
in the 80s, it was very much about we had to be considered one of the boys. And although we had big shoulder pads, it was very much about behaving like men,
Yeah.
which is not what we're about. We need to behave like women. And
Yeah, we've got to get over that. We've got
yeah,
to run the business like women.
that's right. And I
Mhm.
think that's because things like intuition, women's caring ability, women's ability to communicate and support each other has
Mhm.
not been honoured and valued
Yes.
um, in the same way that men's talents. And this is not to decry men's talents and abilities because we need them. But this is about women still finding their way forward and honouring our inner power. And I think circumstances can occur where we lose power, where we
Mhm.
feel disempowered, and
Mhm.
we have to spend time saying, well, where has my confidence gone and why? Was it some action? Was it someone else who, for instance, eats our time? I mean,
Mhm.
trying to find that work life balance is, I think, harder for women than it is for men because we still carry the responsibility of childbearing and child rearing, and then later on, it's looking after older parents.
Mhm.
Um, so it's us recognizing that our one of our key strengths is our internal power,
It
and
is really important to have that
I mean,
inner
it means
power,
what?
that inner
Yeah,
confidence, because it
yeah.
ends up reflecting outside and everything we do and everything we say. It's really what I've noticed. I mean, I come from Turkey originally and I grew up here. And there is always this saying when you are talking or when you're being, and I used to always hear these words like Elif is like a boy, and I hated it, absolutely hated it with passion. Because so if you are very clear, very straightforward, if you're very job doer and finisher and completer, it was always perceived as a man.
Mm.
And I always say, no, I do like a woman. That's how my mother does it, how my grandmother has done it. I don't do it like my father. If it was that case, I would never get the job done. I'd do it like my mother, like do it. So I really feel like we've got to change that. And it's almost like it's stuck in our tongue, the way we describe a woman being so powerful, woman being so confident, who has a voice. And the culturally in my country, people always describes that as a man. She's really powerful, she's like a man, and I hate it.
But yes, cultures do differ in the way that
Mm,
they perceive women, the way they treat women,
mhm,
and the way in which we use language as well. That
mhm,
there are certain male attributes where if a male is determined to move forward and get something done, as you've just said, he's
mhm.
honoured for that. Whereas a woman can be called overbearing
Yeah,
when she's actually taking charge and demonstrating her leadership,
yeah.
which can be disempowering. So we have a sense of our power being taken. So we have to be in our center and in our strength and understand that this change, which there's still change needed, it's not, we're not complete, we haven't finished the journey by any means, unfortunately.
Mhm.
It's coming back to your inner power is in and of itself a huge support in when you're wanting to go through change, and it does generate more confidence.
Absolutely.
because it is actually in the same colour. Well, I'm looking at my wheel. Confidence and power reside in the same place.
Yeah.
The two run in parallel, not in parallel, but they're one and the same thing. So yes, it's honouring that we have an enormous power. We just use it in different ways, and it's saying all those wonderful attributes that women have are
Mhm.
incredible, and we need to acknowledge them more. And they do change as you age as well.
That
And
is,
it's accepting that. I mean, the menopause is zeitgeist at the moment, isn't it? Thank God it's being acknowledged. I mean, that is huge change that it's not
yeah.
being ignored. But it's that once one gets into the excitement of that crondom, it's respecting that and knowing that that is going through a process of change in and of itself. So inner power is important, but it can also be linked with the external.
Hmm.
So it's the two can't be separated entirely. I think
No,
it's what's happening in the external world will impact upon that as well. So before we disappear into something too complex here, um, but yes, acknowledging and recovering our inner power. Where have you left it? Where do you need to go back to retrieve it?
I love that. I'm just going to ask you, I know you are really renowned for your eccentric mix of observation, comedy, and insightful pottery, and always entertaining. And I really want you to talk about how pottery can play with your strategic thinking, releasing overwhelm and easing uncertainty. How do you help your clients to add these modality, I suppose, to their leadership skills to to navigate through change?
I know it does seem like a strange bedfellow to have, or a strange resource, but it is and can be a very powerful resource for your leadership. I mean, I'm obviously passionate about poetry because I'm a performance poet.
Mhm.
So for me, it's a really a brilliant way of expressing myself, telling stories, and helping people to laugh. So moving them from a place where they may not be feeling too wonderful, if I get them giggling or laughing at my poem is a wonderful experience. Um, but I use poetry in group coaching, and I use it when it's appropriate in my individual coaching programs. Um, and it is also the topic for my signature talk. Have you ever been eaten by a poem? And how poetry helps with strategic thinking, releases overwhelm, and eases uncertainty. Now, all of that is, strange to believe, backed by research. Most people will go, yeah, well, poetry, it's obviously wonderful in the community, in education, it's in the NHS, it's used in prisons. But in terms of business, people go, oh, really? How is that?
How is that? Yes, that's
I
my
know, I
question.
know.
How is that
Um,
possible?
well, what happens when you're reading poetry, number one, is that you immediately have to engage more of your brain and with your emotions
Okay.
because you're being taken into a story, you're being removed from that linear thought process, which basically just knows the past. Whereas a poem will help you move into a place where you're almost an observer, and it will enable you to light up your brain. There is a part of the brain that lights up when you are reading poetry, and that part helps deal with the resilience for uncertainty. Now, I don't know where that bit hangs out, but the research has revealed that's what it can do. Um, and when you take yourself away from the task at hand and your thoughts are going, I got to do this, I got to do that, into a place where you're reading, for instance, if I can find the one um, here and find the poem actually. Have you ever been eaten by a poem? It will nibble at your ears, kiss your nose, fill your eyes with tears, erode your fears, cause a fart of smelly smiles. Now, um, it's pausing that train of thought and saying, oh, I've got to look at this slightly different. What does this make me feel? What does it
Yeah.
make me think about? Um, and what research has shown is that the more you engage with poetry, the more you can understand some of the complexities of the world of business. Because problems require fresh thinking. And
Yes.
fresh thinking is not going to come from what you've done in the past, it's going to come from a new space, the creative.
Come from creativity.
Yeah. So it's you look at this as okay, this is daft, but actually, um, yeah, having something nibble at your ears, um, you can allow your mind to start to drift into a place of exploring your imagination, and
Mhm.
that's also what poetry does. It helps with your imagination and it works with metaphor. So, and I know there was a company where the founder of it insisted that his HR people employed poets in managerial roles because he knew poets were good strategic thinkers and could analyze and resolve problems much more quickly. Um,
Do you
and
think it's because it comes from their creative thinking or emotional thinking rather than front and with their mind only? Because they think more emotionally. Is that why do you think their strategic thinking is it's more successful, if you can say more successful?
um, it enables you to analyze a problem in a much more um, in a deeper way because um, you don't just get a poem on the first reading. It has depths and journeys to take you on, and you can. It's like music. You listen to music, and you will get something from the first listening. You go back and you go, oh yes, I hadn't quite heard that. Um,
Mhm.
and it causes you to move into you. It's because you're using more of your brain.
Yeah,
And a poem is the heart having meetings with the head,
I like that connection.
um, which is which is a quote from Mary Oliver, who's a brilliant poet. Um, and you write from the heart, you come from the heart, but the head is there to give you a structure to that. So it's yeah, it it's playful, it's expressive, and it will also reading poetry will help with your listening skills
Mhm.
because it asks a poem will ask you to listen deeply. What does the poet mean by this? Um, I have a poem called Encouragement where wrap your cloak of courage around you. So you're looking at, courage is a cloak. I need to wrap it round me. What else could that represent? You can keep returning to a poem to get more out of it. Um, so it is about, to try and sum that up, if you can engage with poetry, it's about helping you switch off from your problems, from your issue. It engages more of your brain, it emotionally engages you, it lights up your brain to
Mhm.
help with uncertainty. And when I work with poetry as a transformational tool in group coaching, it enables participants to step into the creative space. And in this
Mhm.
case, they are going to be writing something. And
Mhm.
from that writing, they gain insights and understanding and ideas because they're working with more of their brain and their heart.
Okay. I can almost hear people are listening right now thinking, yeah, but how do I apply this poetry? What do I do? Do I read one poem a day? How do I use and add these to way of running business as a leader, how could they do it?
Well, first of all, you don't do this if you don't find it fun. It's not going to work. There has to be pleasure in it.
Hmm.
And many people left poetry behind at school and went, hurrah! I don't have to look at this anymore because they haven't been well taught, they haven't been engaged properly with it.
Hmm.
So it doesn't need, it can't be one more thing to do. I've got enough on my plate. There has to be a pleasure, as I say in my talk about it. So it's recognizing that there are some wonderful poets out there who write about contemporary situations. You will find a poem for just about anything.
Yeah.
And we normally turn to poetry, or we we're not engaged in it. We will turn to poetry at times of celebration, like weddings and birthdays
Hmm.
and events, and we will turn to poetry at times when things are tough, grief and funerals and unhappiness. Um, but in terms of everyday reading, you can turn to a haiku, that's 4 lines, it'll take you a couple of minutes, or a sonnet, which is 12 lines. Um, and I can recommend some poets, but you have to find your own poet, particularly for the lighting up of your uncertainty bit of your brain. It didn't work as well when people were reading poetry that had been recommended to them.
You
So,
have got one of your first collection of performance poetry available on Amazon, haven't you?
oh, yes, well,
You can't cook a poem like an egg.
yes,
I
you can,
love
of
the
course,
name.
you can of course buy my first collection. You can't cook a poem like an egg. Thank you for reminding me, Elif. There are some poems on my website. If you're wanting to explore poetry, start with our poet laureate Simon Armitage, who I think is absolutely brilliant and very accessible as a poet. He writes about everyday things.
Hmm.
um, Carol Ann Duffy, who was the last poet laureate, because she writes brilliantly for women.
Okay.
Um, I have a wonderful little handbag sized book of poems entitled I Could Piss on This. Um, and every time I open it, I laugh because it's a poetry all about cats, written from the perspective of the cat. So I'm feeling down. I'll go, where's my little book?
What is the book called?
I could piss on this. I can't,
I love it.
I can't recommend that highly enough. If you want something raucous, riotous, and rude, John Cooper Clarke, that many people will have heard of, is absolutely brilliant, um,
Love it.
and again very accessible. And I mentioned Mary Oliver a little
Mhm.
while ago. Her work is just beautiful. So they're all contemporary poets, which is not to decry that our old traditional ones such as Shakespeare or John Donne or Shelley, but is look at what is out there at the moment. You can Google "I'm feeling fed up." You'll find a poem about fed upness.
I
Um,
love that. I'm going to try it.
so
Right now, when we finish our interview, I'll definitely do one.
I will bring you a copy of my book, Ellie.
I
Um,
would love that. I can't wait to meet you in person
thank
anyway.
you. So but going back to poetry as a tool for leadership, um, if you find this enjoyable, it will benefit you as well as bringing you pleasure
Hmm.
in the ways that I've just described. And it is for me when I'm working with a group, it is a humbling and transformative tool. It feels very powerful when people finish what they're writing, and they are helped to do that. They're not being expected, and I'm not expecting a poet laureate to emerge, because they find they have changed as a result of what they've written. And I will use that with my one-to-ones if it's appropriate. We don't
Hmm.
always get into poetry, but as a poet, I obviously will encourage people to read it and to recover it and to recognize it. Particularly
Beautiful.
the funny one. Poets will make you laugh. Mine's funny. Some of mine is funny, but it's not all of it's funny.
Beautiful. Well, I'm going to put all the details and your website links on our show notes so people can actually reach out to you and learn more in deeper level how you can actually help them and how they can discover the power of poetry in their leadership.
Thank you, thank you. I really do appreciate that.
Okay, I know how valuable your time is, so I'm not gonna keep you too long, but I have to ask this question to everybody I interview. What does confidence mean to you?
Ah, confidence is forgetting to remember to be afraid.
Ooh, forgetting to remember
To be afraid.
to be afraid. Oh, that's very poetic.
So, um, and you stop and you think about that and you go, hang on a moment. Yeah. Um, and confidence is something that we acquire from doing.
Hmm.
Again, it's part of our inner power.
Hmm.
Um, and it's you're expected to have stage fright if you're doing something different. And it's important to remember that you can transform that stage fright into excitement.
Yeah,
Fear and excitement are very close
very.
and allies. You have to say, no, this is not fear, it's excitement. And there are, I still get stage fright before I give a talk, before I go on stage. It's a lot better than it was when I first began, more years ago than I care to mention. But it's what gives you that buzz.
Hmm.
But it's when you are in that place of confidence and you can act as if, even though inside you're quaking,
Yeah,
um, that energy will radiate out
does.
and it will impact on those that you're working with or talking to. So you can fake it till you make it.
Yes, I say
Right.
fake it till you become it.
Yeah. But it's forgetting to remember to be
Yeah,
afraid. Stage,
forgetting to remember to be afraid. I love that.
yeah, stage fright is
Beautiful.
normal. It's normal. Expect to have nerves and look at them as excitement.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Louise. Louise is a creative leadership coach, inspirational speaker, performance poet, and comedian, and I am honored to have you here with us. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, your experience, and your creativity.
Thank you, Elif. I'm honoured to be here because I hugely admire what you do and what you've done. And I think what you're doing with these podcasts is just brilliant and very needed too. So
Thank you.
congratulations on that. And thank you. I've loved talking and being here with you. And I do look forward to meeting you in person too.
Lovely. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. I am going to share all the information that you need to know about Louise on the show notes. You just need to go to below, click the links, and go find her and her wonderful offerings that might be available at the time that you listen this interview. And I hope to see you on the next episode. Thank you so much. Take care.